Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you all to the June meeting of Strategic Housing Finance Corporation. And I will now bring the meeting to order. Do you have a time check for me, staff?
11:36.
11:36. First, I want to thank each and every one of you for making this time available. I know you're volunteers. This public service really means a lot. And we thank you for that. So we'll start with a roll call, if you would, Ms. Hunnicutt.
President Julio Gonzalez Altamirano.
Present.
Vice President Jan Winning.
Present.
Director Dalit Becker.
Present.
Director Keisha Prince.
Here.
Director Lisa Reams. Director Rebecca Weber.
I'm here, thank you.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving to item 2, the public forum and citizen communication. Ms. Hunnicutt, do we have anyone who's communicated a desire to speak today?
Not that I'm aware of.
I did receive notification from one of our stakeholders in Basta that she's running late. So I'm going to skip item 2 for now.
Okay.
But if there's a burning desire to hear public testimony, perhaps we'll revisit that. Moving then to item 3 on our agendas. This item is a consent agenda. And as noticed to directors ahead of time, everything that we've grouped into this agenda was previously brought to your notice and attention through email and or through the work session that we held 2 weeks ago. So I'm just going to remind everybody what these items are, and we'll take a single vote to approve all of them as one batch. So this includes A, approval of the minutes from the May 22nd, 2024 regular meeting. B, approval of the minutes from the June 13th, 2024 work session meeting. C, resolution number SHFC-2024-36 to consider and take action to approve paid time off policies. And D, resolution number SHFC-2024-37 to consider and take action to approve mobile phone policy. Unless there is a motion to remove any of these items, I welcome a motion to adopt these resolutions A through D. And we have a motion from Director Weber. Is there a second? And Director Becker has seconded. I put this motion to a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
And we have 4 ayes. 5 ayes. And any no nays. For the record, I want to note that one of our stakeholders has arrived, Ms. Garcia from Basta, and we skipped that agenda item, reserving it for later if you had wished to sign up to testify today.
I do, and I think Sade was also going to, but I don't see them on the,
Is her microphone?
were they on the Zoom?
No.
Checking the Zoom connection to see if
Oh.
anyone's joined us.
So that we do have someone joined as iPhone 11? Is that what you said? So it may be her, but the name is not showing.
Can they identify themselves, Kevin?
I'm not seeing them.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia, would you like to proceed then with your testimony? And if so, I am going to return now to item 2, the public forum citizen communication, which was skipped briefly. Ask again, is there anyone desiring to discuss or comment on the items on our agenda today? And have you signed in with Ms. Hunnicutt? Okay.
Oh, I haven't seen
This is you signing in.
Thank you.
I understand about the traffic situation. I was tied up myself. So we have a maximum 3-minute limit.
Sure.
And start anytime you'd like.
Okay. Good morning, my name is Gabby Garcia. I work with Basta, and for 2 years I was the lead organizer with the Neighbors at Rosemont Tennis Association. So we're here today to talk about the Rosemont Reinvestment Plan. First of all, I want to thank the board for initiating the project and for hiring CRB to assist with moving things forward. I know that you all have a lot of other projects in the works, and this really speaks volumes that you haven't forgotten what happened at Rosemont. And so I know that this whole program isn't a simple task. It's complicated and there are many layers, and I know everyone in this room wants the same things. We want an accurate account of what happened, to hold those responsible accountable. We want to highlight that this new and better version of SHFC wants to make things right and is apologizing for something that you didn't do. And above all, we want this to be meaningful and helpful to tenants as a recognition of what they went through and, just to admit that it was wrong. And this last goal, I believe, is what's most important, and I'm concerned that the other two goals are overshadowing the most important one. The process of the actual distribution is being slowed down because right now it seems like the focus is on finding out what happened and putting together this history of what happened to who. And from the last meetings, I feel like CRB staff is trying to put this history together and they're using unreliable information from an unreliable source. We know that Capstone mismanaged, lost, fabricated records. We know that the inspection reports that they have were testing for the wrong things and they're inaccurate, and they're trying to put together these things to make a narrative. And I'm a little worried that the narrative that we're constructing is harmful. I'm also worried about the way that things are being spoken about in regards to buckets and concessions given, and the way that it's been being spoken about. It was like, oh, you got a concession if you were relocated, but that was not a prize. It was part of the horror. And so I just want to be careful about the language that's used and whether or not that's being used to determine the harm. And another big thing that I heard was we want to get an accurate count of who was affected by Winter Storm Uri. But again, all of this is based on SHFC saying that those 87 families were affected by Winter Storm Uri, and we know that that wasn't true. And so it's complicated, right? And so this is the reason that when tenants came together, they were trying to figure out, how do we make this fair, right? Because if we're basing it on how much harm somebody suffered, that's impossible. Did I already go over 3?
10 seconds.
Oh my God, I'm not even close to done.
Do you want to finish your thought?
My thought is that we stand by the recommendations that we made initially. I know that those aren't fair either, right? But it's the fairest thing that people could think of. And secondly, the longer that we delay this, unfortunately, we started the clock ticking as soon as we asked tenants if we could share their information with you. So now they're like, what's happening with this? What's going on? And they're starting to feel frustrated. And also what's happening at Hayden Glade right now, he's increasing rents. He's threatening people with eviction for past due fines. And so this money would be really helpful right now in giving those people a choice. I had a lot more. I'll email it to you all.
Okay. Yeah, Gabby, Ms. Garcia, I'm happy to, let's meet in chat.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that you email your comments, because
All right, so we have an interest in you communicating via email to staff, and staff will send them to all the directors. And I think this may conclude this section of the agenda, or what have we?
Did Sade not?
Who is the person on the iPhone identified themselves? It was Brenda, not Sade.
So
I'm on here.
Oh, Linda.
I'm on here.
She is.
is Linda who you're waiting for?
No, Sade.
Oh, there she is. I see now. So, does she want to?
Yes, she does.
Okay.
All right, so we have one other citizen who would like to communicate with the board today. Again, a 3-minute time limit. And if you don't mind introducing yourself, we don't have a picture of you, so just start with your name. Thank you.
Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. My name is Sade. Can I go ahead?
Yes, you have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hello, my name is Sade, and I'm a member of the steering committee here at Rosemont / Soto at Riverside now. I currently reside here as well. And I wanted to speak on the subject of the money that you all are supposed to be distributing to the previous Rosemont residents um, that have suffered through all the different things that went on here. Um, and I just wanted to say that I feel like, anyone who did receive any type of um, payout, I feel that they shouldn't be allowed to get anything. Um, and anyone that moved in the property after it was purchased should not receive anything as well. Um, I don't feel that anyone should be put into like categories because we all have suffered from the neglect of Capstone. If all the issues would have been handled correctly, we wouldn't even be speaking about this matter at the moment. We, the steering committee, I believe we had brought to your attention that that the resident should get the 15,000. I feel we should get that amount because all the trauma and broken promises that everyone has gone through and experienced. And apologies does not make up for what we endured at the hands of Capstone. I feel like this is the least that can be done for us, so we can try and put this in the past and move on with our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Are there any other people present for citizen communication? Hearing none, we'll move on to our next.
Vice President Winnick, do we need her last name for the minutes? Sade, would you mind?
Yeah, state her last name.
Oh, we have a request, Shonda. Could you give us your full name so we can note it in our minutes for our next meeting?
I didn't hear nothing
Or
you said. I'm sorry. What did you say?
Sorry, we're having a little bit of a technological problem here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, if you could slowly state your first and your last name, we'll note it for our minutes and for the permanent record of the meeting.
Oh, Sade Forge.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And with that, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda. We're on item 4, and looking forward to hearing from our interim executive director, Diana Gray, for a director's report.
Good morning, board members. Thank you for being here today. In addition to the consent agenda that we have already covered, today you will be taking a vote to accept the 2023 audit, which has been completed, along with recognizing the financial loss associated with Rosemont, be considering a mid-year budget amendment, and then have the opportunity, should you so choose, to approve the agreement for a permanent executive director and signature authority. The final item on the agenda we are not considering today, which is workforce terms. Upon my return from being out of town, it sounds like in consultation with our financial advisors, need a little more time to do some analysis on those workforce terms, but do anticipate bringing them back to you in July. So in terms of the director's report, I wanted to cover briefly our occupancy report, which is in your board packet, and then we'll talk a little bit about financial statements. Our average portfolio occupancy as of last week was 88.7%. That's up 1.7% from last month, so that's good news. We still, we'd certainly like our entire portfolio to be above 90, and we'll continue to work on that with our partners, but are pleased to see at least some modest uptick in that occupancy rate. So we are.
I think one of our attendees may have their mic on. If
You able to
everyone
mute
could
her?
silence their mic.
Kevin was able to mute.
Okay, thank you.
So in your package, you will find 2 months of financial statements, April and May. If you recall, upon our separation from the administrative function of the Housing Authority of Travis County, we have engaged a third-party bookkeeping firm, Jitasa, and so began that process before April 1st, but have been in the process of setting up our new sets of books. And then I think the other thing that we have done that will allow us, we think, more solid reporting, but was a little time consuming, is that they are entering anew every transaction from January 1st, so that in that system, which is different from the HATSE system, we can pull year-to-date reports fairly easily. So we just got April and May statements on Monday. And together with Vela, we've been looking at those. There is a little bit of cleanup to do, we think, and some, both in terms of presentation and the interpretation of a few items. So we probably will bring you some restated statements next month with minor changes. However, what we wanted to share with you today was the statement of financial position or balance sheet, the statement of activities, which includes budget to actual, and then a revenue report. I'm going to be speaking just to the May reports because, of course, those are up to date, but your package does also include April. So the May financial statements on the statement of financial position shows us with net assets of just over $9 million. That's a modest increase of about $500,000 from $8.5 million year-end 2023. In terms of the statement of activities and our budget to actual, you'll see that is the sheet here that has some of the colored line items. And I want to speak to that a little bit. This is one of the reports that will change. HATSE's reporting rolled these expenditures up. And so we will be providing the detail as we go forward. But one of the tasks that we are working through with Jitasa is taking HATSE's allocations, which were paid to them in lump sums, and then parsing out the expenditures by line item. So you'll have more detail, but we do have the high level sort of expenditures and budget numbers from HATSE. Also, presuming that, should you choose to approve a budget amendment, this meeting, the budget will change. And so the budget to actual will change for next time. So in summary, our year-to-date revenues as of May 31st were $996,398. That is against a year-to-date budget of $1.6 million. So we are a bit behind there. I will tell you that we've received about $300,000 in cash so far in June. And so by my calculation, at the end of June, we're probably at about 70% of our anticipated revenue. That is presuming that the revenue is spread evenly across the year. So the budget as it was, the revenue projection as provided is just an annual amount. It did not say, here's really what we expect month by month. And that is some part of what we're working on with Graham Brown as we do portfolio review, is to look at each of our deals and map out when we would anticipate, if there's a time certain, which month we ought to be seeing revenue in, so that we have a better sense of how we're doing month over month, and can follow up more effectively with our partners if a payment seems to be late. So that's the revenue side. On the expense side, we're actually slightly below budget overall, $363,000 from January through May on a year-to-date budget of about $428,000. I will tell you that June has been a big month in terms of bringing on consultants and partners and et cetera. So I expect to see that increase substantially in June. And of course, you are considering today a budget amendment that contemplates some more aggressive growth and additional investments. So let me stop there and take any questions you have on those two reports, the statement of financial position or the statement of financial activity.
Do any of my colleagues have questions or clarifications for those two? Ms. Gray?
I have a question on 1110, allowance for doubtful accounts.
Correct.
What is that exactly?
So, anytime we as an organization book either a receivable, an account receivable, or a note receivable, right? We're sort of saying we expect to be paid this amount. There can be multiple reasons an account might be doubtful. One might be, look, say one of our partners goes out of business, right? We don't think we're going to get that. So we don't want to show that as an asset on our books. In particular, in terms of our statements, that amount corresponds to the loans that were made to HATC for multiple projects. They are a task we have in front of us is determining whether it was anticipated that those loans ever be repaid, when they would be repaid. They have longer terms. And so this is a holdover from HATC's accounting, which always showed this. They showed it as uncollectible. I prefer the language a doubtful account. I don't know that it's uncollectible. And that could change. We may find as we do additional analysis that we believe some portion of that is likely payable, but it keeps us from overstating our assets, right? Saying we're owed this money when today it is unclear whether we will actually realize that.
Any further questions, Director Ecker?
Not that one. I had a question on this one, and I think it has to do with Rosemont. The balance sheet on January 31 has a cash account called Tex Pool.
Yeah.
Is that the Rosemont
No, ma'am.
proceeds?
No, ma'am. We have two primary accounts. We have a bank account, which we usually keep, just maybe 2 or 3 months at max of operations in. The majority of our funds sit in that Tex Pool account, which is a pooled investment account that we have access to really by virtue of being quasi-governmental. And so it is an investment account. We do earn about 5% interest on it, but it's liquid. And so the majority of our balance sheet really sits in that account, including both our general reserves and the monies that the board has in spirit, though not formally set aside from Rosemont and for reinvestment.
Okay. So I'm a little confused because in January we have Tex Pool at about $4 million, and then as of May on the financial reports, it moves down to other assets, and it has jumped to $8 million.
So I'll look at the January reports. There may have been more in cash at the times. Bella, can you be looking at that as I talk a little bit? So that where in terms of the presentation, this is actually one of the changes that we want to discuss with Jatasa. For me, having cash, our bank account up top makes sense. I would not have other assets separately way down at the end of the statement. So we're going to ask them to move those up in interpretation, particularly because those assets are liquid, effectively liquid. So we're going to show the cash from IBC, and I actually think it probably qualifies as a cash equivalent because it is unusually liquid for that kind of investment vehicle. So yes, that is one of the changes you'll expect to see next month, unless they give us a really good reason we shouldn't do it.
Okay, I think that covers those questions.
I think we're back to you.
Okay, excellent. So the final thing I want to call out, you had in your package you have statement of financial position, statement of activities, and then it's on one of the backs of your sheets, a small spreadsheet which is the statement of financial activity by location. This is an excerpt of that report, which just shows you kind of where we're headed in terms of our revenue reporting. Do you want me to pull it up, Jan, or actually
If it's
Julio?
easy to do.
It'll take a moment.
No,
So let me talk through it
go
quickly,
ahead.
and then you'll. So essentially, heretofore, for income revenue from our partnerships was tracked in spreadsheets. and it was sort of the type of income it was maybe in a note, right? So you didn't really have a way in the system to run a report on said development, what's the revenue been over the course. And so this is, we have created location accounts for each of our physical locations, and, further given some detail about the type of fee that's being received. We hope that this will really help us, I think, track that more effectively and be better stewards of what's happening. That's the end of that. Unless there are any other questions on financials, I think we could move forward to the next agenda item.
Any director have any other comments, questions, or clarifications for the director's report? Hearing none, we'll move on to our action agenda. That we're on section 5 now, action agenda. And subsection A, resolution number SHFC 2024-32, to consider and take action to A, accept 2023 independent auditor's report, and B, acknowledge loss from the sale of Rosemont at Oak Valley as disclosed in the 2023 independent auditor's report. I'd like to ask staff to present on this item, and then we will.
Thank you, Vice President Wenig. So the audit was completed and I believe was sent out to board members earlier this week. You, of course, have seen a draft of it previously. We had a presentation from Smith Marion month before last. And so it has been completed. We expect to sign the management letter today. I do want to note that board approval isn't required because it's an independent audit. They've completed their report with our feedback, and they've made lots of adjustments to that we have requested. But acceptance is good practice. It sort of it reads this essentially into the record for us as an organization. We did not have any substantial findings. It's an unqualified opinion, with the exception of the item that we've discussed before, which is that we don't include the financials of all of our subsidiary organizations in our books. We note them, but we are not rolling them up. That's a decision, both strategic and I think financial, that has been made in the past. But again, so they acknowledge that, but it is not a finding, if you will. Similarly, our auditors recommended, not as a requirement, but as good practice, that the board acknowledge the Rosemont loss formally. And so we are doing that as part of a single resolution today. There is detail of the Rosemont transaction, and this is an addendum to your package on page 13 of the audit, which I've provided as a loose leaf. So this last section, which just talks about basically what occurred, the damages, the subsequent sale, the insufficiency of the sale proceeds to make us whole. That's all right.
With that, are there any questions or clarifications for staff on this item? And I just want to point out in your packets, in your board book, the actual language of the resolution, it has a typo in it. And so you will see in the minutes, should we adopt this resolution, that on line 1, instead of to consider and take action to accept, spelled E-X-C-E-P-T, it's accept, A-C-C-E-P-T, and same on section 1, page 2. The corporation hereby accepts the audit. And you heard in the language of our executive director that we can't really approve an audit because we're not licensed accountants and don't hold that expertise and weight as a governing body, but we can accept the audit of a third party. So that's the language that you'll see in the final resolution. Are there any other questions or clarifications before we put a motion to adopt? Yes, Director Weber.
I think I appreciate the explanation that we are accepting rather than approving. Because, for instance, on page 21 of the audit, where we talk about the notes receivable, I guess I have some concerns that, like, could what's been put in here be amended later? And my follow-up question is this legally binding on us? If we accept this language, are we making an admission of?
Can you perhaps point to the specific language?
Yeah, so I'm at the bottom of page 21. In 2017, SHFC advanced $1,561,000 to HATC to set up a replacement reserve account, et cetera, et cetera. I guess I'm more asking for a legal opinion, and maybe we can discuss this in committee. But I know our lawyer is here. Are we bound by this language if we accept it?
Can I just get? I want your legal opinion, but can I give just a bit of feedback from a sort of my understanding of the accounting piece? An allowance for an uncollectible does not mean that we are forgiving or writing off that debt. We are just sort of, again, trying to avoid overstating our assets. So in my view and my understanding from our conversations with the auditor, who in fact said, we don't take these notes off your books unless the board approves it, right? So it's still owed to us legally. We have acknowledged we want to do some due diligence, right, on that. So I'll stop there, but I don't think it is forgiving or writing off that debt. Go ahead.
Cliff, could you weigh in for us? Yeah.
Sure, and I have not seen the audit, so I don't know exactly what it says, but it is just approving, including that $1.5 million, whatever it is, in the doubtful category, so to speak. That is not saying we don't want to receive it, we've forgiven it. That is just saying the accountant's opinion or view of this is that collection is questionable. But it's not, that does not, we're just agreeing with the accountants, I believe, that yeah, we may be doubtful, but we still expect to receive it.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
So with those clarifications, are there any other questions before we entertain the motion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to consider and take action to accept the 2023 Independent Auditors Report and the acknowledged loss from the sale of Rosemont Oak Valley as disclosed in the report? Rebecca Weber has moved, and do I have a second? Director Prince provides a second, and now we can open to debate or discussion if there are concerns or further comments people want to make on this resolution at this time. Hearing none, I personally just want to thank staff for the thoroughness of communication on these items. This is a big step for us to move forward with an audit, and a necessary one. And in the work session, you provided ample access to the auditor, which we really appreciated. And in prior discussions, both with the Governance, Finance, and Administration Committee and with the HR Committee, we were able to have a chance to ask our questions, so that makes our work here run much smoother. And I really appreciate, that was a lot of legwork. And in absentia, I want to thank the auditor too, because he was available for some great discussion. So seeing no further discussion, I put the motion to a vote. All those in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, no nays, and the motion passes. Moving on to item B, resolution number SHFC 2024-33, to consider and take appropriate action related to a potential budget amendment for the corporation. Again, I defer to staff for a brief review of what we're considering today.
Excellent. Board members, today is the culmination of about 2 months of work with you and staff. And so this slide just lays out the process, which includes multiple consultations with GFA committee, with HR, and of course with you in work session 2 weeks ago. And so we are hoping to bring that to completion today, if possible. I do want to point out that in your package, we have replaced the sort of roll-up page. And so that is sitting in front of you in a loose leaf version. President Altamirano, I'll do my best to give you the voiceover here. There were just a couple of items that were not captured in that roll-up. And so the total is slightly higher than the one that was sent out last night by about $8,000. So 2 weeks ago, when we looked at the budget amendment, the proposed total budget was $2.19 million. Today, it sits at $2.319471, and that corresponds to a couple of changes. Principally one, which is the addition after some feedback that I got from some board members outside of work session really felt like we needed a chief of staff role. And so I have adjusted, it is an additional staff person, but adjusted the staffing pattern a little bit so that under that chief of staff, we then have a slightly less senior director of admin and finance, but also the director of policy and performance would report to chief of staff. And so because some of our costs, of course, are driven by the number of employees, not only did the personnel costs go up, but there was a little bit of increase in, say, equipment and things like that. And then the other substantial change that has been made is that we did specify an amount for construction monitoring in response to some priority raised around really making sure that we are checking in regularly about the quality and progress of our construction on our projects. So we budgeted $108,000. That's for the next 6 months. Remember, this is just through the end of the year. We did take that out of the larger $250,000 that we had set aside for additional contract services. So we have $142 left that is uncommitted or obligated or directed at this time. So again, we now are looking at a total budget of $2.3 million, $2.319471 to be exact, that it is budgeted against a total of $3.7 million in projected revenue. So still a fairly substantial surplus at the end of the year that we can utilize to continue to build our reserves back. And again, the allows for, instead of 9 FTEs, which we discussed last meeting, it would go to 10 being hired over the next 6 months or so. I have some detailed summary of some of the different categories, but we don't have to dig into that. If folks are satisfied or if you have particular questions, I'm happy to respond to those directly as well.
Turning now to questions or requests for clarification from directors. Anybody wish to hear more detail on any of this?
I mean, I'm gonna have a lot of questions, so I don't know if it's question time or I wait till the motion.
If it's truly a clarification and not a debate, you can pose it now.
Okay, I have a question, and I believe that staff will know this. So for an HFC, historically, how much is spent on staff, operations, and everything else? As we budget our revenue for this year and the coming years, we need to know where we have the money to spend on staff and how it should go.
So HFCs are structured quite differently. I would say in the past, when you were purchasing services from HATC, the part that was allocated, and I'm going to look to y'all to, for staffing and operations, was around $500,000. Having said that, You also, you were drawing on some economies of scale of an existing organization. And B, I think we believe and have heard from board members that the level of due diligence of asset management, et cetera, is something that we really want to raise with this organization. So it's fairly common for HFCs to be wrapped into to say there is we have a county HFC, right? And we have a city HFC. So it's difficult to sort of go apples to oranges. So I don't have a clear answer for you, but I do feel comfortable that when we've looked over the last several years of revenue received, not just what's projected this year, and 4 million has been pretty consistent over about the past 4 to 5 years. So we're this year looking at 2.3 of a projected 3.7. Again, still giving ourselves a pretty comfortable buffer for any change in the amount of revenue. And of course, we've approved 10 deals this year, all of which will increase our revenue over time as they close.
Do we have projections of that increased revenue from those deals?
We do not yet. That is part of the task of working with Brown Graham, is building out those projections. And certainly will, as part of the annual budget process for 2025, you can expect us to show you sort of the revenue by all of those new projects as well. They are not part of the 3.7 projection for this year. Any additional revenue we capture by closing any of those deals this year will be gravy, if you will. We would expect most of them probably to close next year.
Do we know, when do you project the portfolio review to be done?
We've talked about a report in August. It is multi-part. We, as you recall, we have worked with Patricia Murphy on the compliance side. We've given some report on that already. We are talking with them about some ongoing work. We are separately looking at the financial piece. And then I think that if we want to wait for one global report, August, September probably, but I actually think it may be more useful for us from a management standpoint to have some iterative reporting as we, have enough information that impacts the way that we move forward from both a policy and a practice standpoint.
Does that conclude
Well, Mark, have you penciled out 2025's budget? Because whenever we hire staff, full-time employees, in my world as a business owner, you commit to keeping them.
Indeed.
So if you worked through the budget for 2025, that way if we hire 10 staff, we know we're going to keep them employed.
We have. It is of course at this point an estimate, but based on the baseline of staffing plus operations, we think we're looking at somewhere around 3.25. That will of course be refined in the budget process. But that's sort of what we think the total is.
Expenses.
Correct.
All right, but we haven't penciled out our revenue.
We've not penciled out our revenue specifically. That number is still under the amount of revenue we have been receiving annually, historically. And just to give you some rule of thumb, as we look at these workforce deals or the bond deals, on average, we're probably realizing around $200,000 a year. So if we are approving 10 deals this year, some may fall out. There's no doubt about that. But we still think that the 4 million baseline that SHFC has been receiving in the last 4 to 5 years, plus on average probably $200,000 on 8 projects, if you will have us very comfortably meeting and exceeding the budget demands based on the new staffing pattern.
I think those are
your questions. Other questions before we consider this resolution? So just to underline something I heard from our interim executive director, some of the solutions to the questions and clarifications include a potential portfolio report coming in July between now and August. Is that
I said August or September.
August or
Yes.
September?
Yes.
Sorry, August or September.
We can
Okay.
we may be able to give some highlights, and we have some,
Along the way.
now, but
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. And we look forward to seeing those other projections. Hearing no other cause for clarification or questions, I would like to entertain a motion to consider and take appropriate action related to a potential budget amendment for the corporation. Is there a motion? From Director Weber, we have she moved, and a second? For this resolution from Director Prince. Is there discussion or debate on the content of this resolution that any director would like to have
Yes.
in the record? Okay.
I would like it in the record. I do not.
I'm acknowledging Director Becker, who has the floor now.
Okay, my discussion is I don't feel like we have gotten all the financial information we need to make these decisions. I have questions. I'd like more historical data. I've spent a lot of hours going through stuff that I received, which means that a lot of the directors haven't received it. And I don't think it's good fiduciary duty to make decisions on staffing till we are sure of our revenue. And the portfolio review is the key to that. I feel confident that the portfolio review is going to be good and we know where we're going. I saw that last year we were expecting somewhere around 2.5 from Rise Residential. And I'm happy to see that it's not in the budget for 2024. But as I have expressed this concern many times, I'm afraid there's more of those in our portfolio. So I want to make sure that we have a thorough portfolio review. I think it's important to review your history before making decisions about going forward. So I would like to motion that we vote on this next, once we have at least preliminary review of the portfolio. Board meeting in July if we have it.
So, am I hearing a motion to table? Is that?
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing. Can we have any other directors want to weigh in on this?
For debate, or
For
are you asking
debate.
for a second?
No, for debate as we, have you made the motion? to table?
I have made the motion, but if she wants to debate, we should allow her.
Okay, yeah. Prior
She can
to a
do.
motion, Director Becker is willing to debate. Yes, President Altamirano, do you want to clarify how to proceed?
Table needs to be seconded.
Right. So she withdrew the motion to table and invited debate prior to making her motion. But thank you for that clarification if she puts it back on out there. Other directors have any agreement or disagreement with Director Becker's position on this resolution? I'm acknowledging Director Weber.
I am really grateful for that point of view. I think it's so important that we have someone at the table who understands the concepts that you're bringing to us. On the other hand, I mean, it was always going to be messy as we transitioned away from HATC to having our own staff, and I'll also put out that we have been working through the budget and governance and finance and administration for a couple of months, and I have been, even though these budget issues are not my expertise, I am a lawyer, not a person who understands financing, but what I do understand is someone who comes to a meeting prepared who is, who has clearly done a lot of work. And so I would just say that I'm trusting that the professionals that we have hired and who have presented this to us are advising us well in this moment. And so I completely acknowledge the concerns that you're raising, but I also think now is the time to take the step to staff up so that we can have better answers in the future. And we just have to be okay with making some decisions this year without the level of detailed information that we expect to get next year, because our staff are starting from a place of not having good information. And I'm kind of talking in circles, but basically HATC did a poor job managing our assets. HATC did not make sure, the HATC, as our vendor, did not keep good records. They did not make sure that we were getting paid for, for instance, on Rise Residential. And so this is not our current staff's fault. This is our prior staff's fault. And to sum up, I think now is the time to make this huge budget amendment based on the 6 months of work that have gone into it. But I am acknowledging your concerns because they concern me too.
Thank you, Director Weber. Director Prince, do you have anything you want to add or comment on in this debate?
No, I think a lot of the stuff is a lot more clear. Nothing was ever clear when we were with HATC. None of this stuff, I couldn't look at this stuff and understand, or even when you ask questions, you still didn't get anything that was clear. And I think that the people that are working on this are doing their due diligence, and I trust them to make this decision.
President Altamirano, would you like to enter this discussion?
My involvement in the process, this budget reflects our priority, which is to create an organization that is at scale and can pursue growth. The concern expressed about revenue projections is valid and certainly something we need to keep our eye on. And I think the dilemma with the idea of we can delay until July is that there is variance around when we will have the level of clarity that might make everyone fully comfortable with knowing down to the dollar and the day when we will receive revenue. What I can say from my time on this body is that the budget that is being proposed and the time it will take to staff up do not cause me concern, especially given the reserves that we have. And so what does cause me concern, because I am living with it every week, right, Chan, is not having the capacity to be able to deliver on the mission, and not having the capacity to work on some of the key initiatives that all of us have, that we are having to, in some ways, wait around. This includes things like better builder terms, the construction quality initiative, my public workforce growth, not to mention a variety of very basic things, such as ensuring that we have occupancy above 90%, making sure all of our properties are in a good place and not deteriorating, making sure that we are being proactive around eviction management. It simply cannot be done with a 4 FTE organization. Finally, I do think there is an understanding that these are not just costs. These are not cost centers. A good half chunk of the FTEs are really revenue generators. They are going to be our deal and investment creators. And right now we also have a bit of a bottleneck to that. We cannot do the more creative revenue things because we simply do not have enough person hours per week. So I feel comfortable with the budget. The only reason I would not feel comfortable with postponing is because the fundamentals are there. We have been through a process, and delay is not going to gain a significant more clarity in my view. Though, like Director Weber said, I'm very, very much keeping close attention to our revenue trajectory. But at this time, this budget is, in my view, what we need to push through on revenue to be able to achieve the mission, not a financial and fiscal drag that would lead us into challenges. Quite the opposite. If we do not invest in this period, I think is how we will get into a potential, financial straitjacket.
Thank you. I just want to add, as a member of the executive committee, that these conversations about where our critical point in growth and expansion to become the excellent organization, the nimble organization that we seek to be and have been seeking to create for, right on a year now, I guess. This is a juncture we need to walk through. We need to wade through this place where the answer is to staff up with critically needed skill sets at a critical time. And I think once we have that expanded capacity, we can again put our nose to the grindstone to improve our processes, get the policies in place, and become that world-class organization that we all seek. So that's my comment at this time, and I am looking for a motion I invite and entertain a motion to consider and take appropriate action related to this potential budget amendment for the corporation. Do we have a motion? We have a motion from Director Becker. Do we have a second? I'm sorry, Director Weber. And we have a second from Director Prince. I now move to place and vote this motion. All those in favor, raise your hands and say aye. Aye. All those opposed? There are 4 ayes and 1 nay. The motion passes 4-1. Moving on to item E, resolution number SHFC 2024-34. To consider and take appropriate action related to a potential employment agreement for the corporation's executive director position. I want to introduce this item by reminding everyone that in executive session we've previously discussed the nature of this employment agreement, and this is to a motion to be able to take action and move to actually accept a signed letter offer. Is there any questions or clarifications about what we're voting on here? All right, hearing none, I entertain a motion to consider this resolution.
I motion.
Okay, Director Becker has moved, and we have a second from Director Weber. Is there any further discussion or debate about this resolution? Seeing none, hearing none, I put this motion to a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. 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 That's 5 ayes, hearing no nays. The motion passes unanimously. F, resolution number SHFC 2024-35. Oh, we have applause in the room.
Yeah.
There's applause on the record. Yay.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Congratulations to us.
We're all winners here. This is a win-win. Okay. Now we'll move on to F. Resolution number SHFC 2024-35 to consider and take appropriate action relating to granting signature authority to the corporation's executive director. Do I have any directors who wish to clarify or ask a question about what we're voting on here? Okay, then do I have a motion to adopt this resolution? From Director Weber, a motion and a second from Director Becker. All those in favor, raise your hands and say aye. Uh-oh. Director Altamirano, can you hear that we're voting?
Aye.
Aye. That's 5 ayes, no nays. The motion passes unanimously. And as previously noted by our executive director, resolution SHFC-2024-38, which was previously on our agenda, has been removed to a later time. Moving on to item 6, discussion items. A, interlocal agreement, ILA termination. I defer to our staff executive director, Gray.
Yes, this is just a brief update to the board that pursuant to some conversations that you all have had as a board with staff and with council. On June 17th, SHFC, in the person of President Altamirano, did send a response to the Housing Authority of Travis County in response to their letter notifying us of the upcoming termination of the interlocal agreement, and which simply asked for us to exercise one of our privileges or rights under that ILA, which is to have access to records. And so it is a more comprehensive ask of related documents related to SHFC than we perhaps had made in a more targeted way previously, and had also offered the use of a service if it's more effective to make electronic copies rather than just transferring files. That is all. I am not certain, President Altamirano, whether that went out to all members of the board. If not, I'm happy to forward it to them.
Well, I think I kept it with a sub-quorum on the topic, and you are fully authorized to share with the full board. Absolutely.
Very good. I will do so now.
Great. So all directors will be in
Response,
possession
just
of-
FYI.
That's what was my next question. Did you kind of cut out there, President? You have not, is what you said. You received the response.
Response.
So we have a response pending, and the ILA is in some manner potentially going to dissolve on July 4th. I think that's the understanding of council. I'm not in the room right now. So you'll keep us posted, President Altamirano.
Yes.
All right. Any further discussion on the ILA termination, where we stand, what to expect next? All right, moves, hearing none. We had a placeholder of item B under discussion items for personnel that is no longer necessary. And moving on to unfinished business, item 7 on our agenda. I would just like to say that there is the possibility that we are willing, with directors willing, if staff were to take a poll, we may consider moving the time of these Thursday meetings back so that another director who's unavailable on Thursdays until afternoon could regularly attend our voting sessions. So I just, little unfinished business for future reference, staff, if you could possibly initiate that poll and see if that will help us include all directors in these recurring meetings.
Happy to.
Any other unfinished business, Director Robert?
I appreciate why the president and the executive director decided not to hold regular work sessions. It was, it is a lot of work for a volunteer gig, y'all. But I'm wondering if we might consider doing a work session just to get the portfolio review. That I would like the opportunity to ask, my silly questions, not in a voting session.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the possibility, being suggested by Director Weber, that staff, when there is information available on this portfolio review that's, I know, coming in partial packages, you would notify us and we would reconsider a possible work session. Makes sense to me. Any comments, President Altamirano?
Possibility of having a publicly noticed committee meeting. That way quorum would be minimal and we could potentially do work without requiring 4 people. But say by making a public notice and indicating there may be a quorum of us present, all of us could show up. We are still within TOMA, but we can call the meeting to order upon the arrival of the committee quorum, if that makes sense. Let me get back to you on the legality of this approach. Once again, publicly pointing out that we voluntarily comply with TOMA, since we are not actually legally covered by it, but we like to meet community expectations around public disclosure. Let me get back to you because that might be the most elegant way of ensuring that everybody that wants to get additional engagement does not therefore create this tricky problem of holding people hostage to having to be at a meeting so that we can actually have the quorum to do it. But if there's interest in any topic having additional staff coverage and engagement, please do let the vice president and I know, and we will work with you to make sure that's the case, especially for some topic of this nature. So let's see if we can do it in a committee way that works, so that we don't have to deal with the quorum. And if not, then we will strongly consider a work session for this particular item.
Any other discussion of unfinished business?
I really like this idea. Can we do it before or after a board meeting? Or is that not allowed? Because then we're all here. I mean, 2 birds, 1 stone.
I think it's all open to discussion.
Yes.
And if you figure out that we can, then can we, and we could take a 30-minute break, go to Papados.
There's nothing.
So number 1 is the question of legality, which our president will be getting back to us on, this inventive format, which releases us from that quorum, troubling quorum issue, which keeps haunting us. And then there's the question of when and where to do that, or what date, what time to do that. So I think we'll be hearing back from staff and executive committee, myself and President Altamirano, to address this as soon as we see that we have the material to review. Other topics that people want to have in this kind of quasi work session, other than the portfolio review?
I think something that would be, because I am curious.
Yes.
Do we have a repository? Y'all can tell that I clearly like financials. Do we have a repository place that these financial reports going back 5 years showing our portfolio over the years, where the directors have access to it, and then maybe during our work session quasi thing, we go over where directors can find this information? Because a lot of my questions I can answer myself. I really will not bother staff and my other directors if I can find it. I just need access.
Great question. Steph, do you want to respond?
Yeah. So let me speak to sort of historic, and then I think, what we might think about going forward. So historically, certainly the monthly financials, as well as the audit, were being presented at board meetings, which means that they're in the board packages, which should be uniformly posted right on the website. I have used that tool myself to find documents. I have not verified that every single meeting is there. You also had boardables that sort of ended right, as I came on board, so I don't know how complete the information was there. We have done away with boardables in the interest of simplification. Our audits should be on the website. but you're talking, I think, more about perhaps about monthly financials. And so another thing that we can talk about is potentially even just the use of Share Drive. You all have an SHFC email account. You're part of our network. And we are internally as staff talking about kind of document management in general, which I mean is something that needs a bit of attention, and we're happy to talk about, is there a way that we create, either give board members particular access to for certain parts of that, or create a standalone board section of that. We'd be happy to. It ain't there yet, but I think we see the need as well.
Solutions are coming. Thank you. Moving on to item 8. Executive session is not needed today, and that brings us to item 9, adjournment. I call this meeting to adjournment at 12:46.
Do we need a motion for that?
We need a motion.
All motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
I studied my Robert's Rules of Order. It told me I could do it. Good job. Director Becker has moved and Director Weber has seconded, and I am in agreement. Thank you all. We are adjourned. 12:47.
Thank you.
Excellent.
You did it.